This video is about what it means to be and stay strong and how that has nothing to do with not feeling anything. It's about false assumptions we have about emotions that make us afraid to feel them, the consequences of being emotionally phobic, and what an effective and rewarding approach to emotions looks like. Hey everyone, welcome here. I'm Maika, a psychologist, and this is Becoming an Expert at Self-Leadership. The purpose of this channel is to share content that helps you empower yourself. So humanity is getting better at this, but we have a long past of unhelpful and false messages and assumptions about emotions. The top ones are, we shouldn't be angry, boys don't cry, that being sensitive or feeling things is a sign of weakness, or that when we experience or show certain emotions, we should feel ashamed of ourselves because it means that something's wrong with us. Mostly we're taught not to show or experience anger, fear, or sadness. But even emotions themselves is something that we don't really welcome that much most of the time, right? If someone tells someone you're being emotional, that's not a compliment. Being emotional has a negative connotation. And that's something I think we should question. Because what these messages teach us is to be emotion or affect phobic, a term that was introduced by psychotherapist and psychotherapy researcher Leigh McCullough. This is when we feel threatened by deep, authentic emotions. When we associate being deficient or getting punished with certain emotions. We then move away from these emotions, try to avoid feeling them, push them away. We struggle against them being there. We put up a facade so that they don't show. We avoid talking about them. And most importantly, we don't process them. And I can hardly overstate how much we limit ourselves this way. Firstly, we miss out on the motivation and clarity that emotions can empower us with. Instead, we lose energy by pouring it into the facade of strength that we've put up and the struggle against what's really going on. Secondly, we do not learn how to process emotions. And thirdly, we limit our capacity to experience and establish emotional intimacy and connection in relationships. Emotion phobia can show itself when someone laughs, although they're talking about something that is upsetting to them and they're laughing to block away the sadness. It can also show itself when someone stops talking, ends a conversation, or changes the topic because the conversation was going into an emotional territory that they're afraid of. It can also show itself when someone doesn't assert themselves by setting a boundary or going into a constructive conflict because they're not allowing themselves to feel the anger that is necessary to do that. It can also show itself when someone worries excessively, overanalyzes, and intellectualizes. And next, I want to share what we need to know and learn to stop being emotion phobic. So number one, emotions are not per se problematic or negative. There are no negative emotions. The only thing that can be problematic is the way we react to experiencing them, or the way we set up our life that may cause certain emotions to become more and more frequent and intense. Number two, emotions don't last forever. This is something we can't learn when we're emotionally phobic and trying to avoid feeling. That emotions have a lifespan, an ebb and flow. They come and they go. No emotion lasts forever. And we can learn this by acknowledging and feeling emotions. Number three, emotions provide motivation and clarity. If you lack motivation or have trouble coming to a decision, a good part of the reason for that could be that you're experiencing a disconnect from certain emotions. Emotions provide motivation and clarity that we can only experience if we allow our emotions to speak to us. And number 4, emotions need to be experienced and processed. That's what is part of healthy human functioning. This is opposed to the assumption that emotions are what makes us weak and incapable of functioning properly. Weakness comes from being emotionally limited and denying and ignoring this part of our experience. Number 5, emotions need to be allowed to exist. Allowing our emotions to be what they are frees up energy and helps us be calm. If we're constantly fighting against what is and what's going on emotionally, that makes us tense and it costs energy. And it's a feeling of constantly being threatened by what may come up. But our emotions are not a threat to our happiness. And a lot of security comes from knowing that I can feel my emotions. I can be happy no matter what comes up. I don't have to be alert all the time on what may come up and try to run away from that. Number 6, emotions are at the core of relationships. Relationships without emotions are shadows of relationships. And in order to experience closeness, we need to be willing to experience and talk about emotions in relationships. To sum up, a lot of what we learn about emotions makes us unnecessarily afraid of them. When we learn to acknowledge, open up to, process, and talk about emotions, we empower ourselves to live life more fully and deeply. If you got something from this video, drop a like, maybe even a comment. And if you're new here, consider subscribing and joining our community of self-leadership experts. Till next time, take care, and remember, emotions don't make us weak. What makes us weak is trying to pretend that they don't exist. Strength comes from the ability to experience and process emotions.